Welcome to Build, Grow, and Sell, how to build the best title ops, including ABAs, from the ground up. Today, we're going to be talking about the recent NAR lawsuits and how that could impact the world of affiliated arrangements. I'm Brian Rieger, and I'm here today with two gentlemen who have built hundreds of title operations, including ABAs, and they've also talked hundreds out of doing JVs and into doing something a little bit better for their goals. And that, of course, is Davis and Mike LaRosa of ClosingSuite.com. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, this is your show. Thanks for having me, actually. But Mike, I'm glad you spoke up first because I want to come to you first. Of course, we just had a verdict at the time of the recording, maybe a week ago, in the Burnett versus NAR lawsuit, and that's in Missouri. And it could, at the greatest extent, turn the real estate world on its head. So if you would, for those who haven't seen much about it or don't really understand what's going on, walk us through the case. Similar lawsuits are now being filed in other places as well. Sure. Tell us a little about the case that brought this situation to bear.
Well, I mean, this is still going to play out in the courts. There's going to be, I don't even know, years of appeals potentially, depending on how deep this goes. And there's going to be a lot of copycat suits in other states, obviously. But the bottom line, and I don't want to get into too far into the weeds, but the bottom line is that this 100-year-old tradition of buyers, buyer commissions on the real estate transaction being paid by the seller have come under attack. And the fact that there is a discussion about the fact that it's at best antitrust and it's antiquated and potentially needs to be an individually negotiated fee per transaction. And, it's difficult to change anything that's been in play for that long. I don't have a position one way or the other. I believe that real estate representation for both buyer and seller in most cases is a positive thing. I don't know how people get there. I'm not here to have an opinion on that. But this is potentially going to change the way our market works. And, the real estate, the traditional real estate transaction is going to be potentially turned on its head. So we'll see where this goes. I think that in our world, the potential is that a team approach to selling may become popular, where you have your listing agents up front with a team of potential buyer agents in the background working in unison with them to bring buyers in. And I'm wondering if the commission will be more of a transactional basis, a brokerage basis kind of approach.
Well, that makes a great segue. I want to go ahead and bring Aaron Davis in now too. Aaron, now you and Mike both think this ruling could, not only just possibly change how real estate agents operate, but the way that they view and use affiliated arrangements or partnerships or joint ventures. So would you expound on that for me? How is this going to change JVs and affiliated arrangements?
Yeah. And again, it's, Mike touched on it. We no one knows what the outcome will be. These are going to be in appeals for a long time, but it's just when a model is challenged, kind of everything around how that model is operated may be challenged. So if you look at it from if a buyer's agent commission is what's at risk and how it's being paid. If currently it's being paid via the listing agreement, and by the way, the listing agreement, at least in Florida, it clearly spells out that, I, the seller, am entering this agreement to list my home, and part of that commission will be shared and paid to a buyer's agent for them to bring me a prospective buyer. It's very clear in how so that's never been the question. The question is currently, is that even right? And again, that goes back to the, it's a very long-standing tradition of how real estate's been played out. So if that model is being challenged, and let's say that you have at certain markets, it's buyer select title or seller select title. So buyer pick, buyer pay, seller pick, seller pay. So listing agent versus buying agent, both of those have a say in where transactions close today. So now, again, if that model is changing, and if let's just say that a buyer's agent is no longer paid via listing and now it's separately negotiated, you're going to have a lot more negotiated in that transaction as well, which includes where does the transaction close, who is paying for closing costs? And let's take a further step. Let's say let's say a buyer is responsible for paying a buyer's commission. Can that be rolled into a loan as it is today? As it is, maybe not so today, but rolled into a transaction. So can a seller agree to pay up to $20,000 of closing costs to include buyer's commission, and then will a lender allow that to occur? So these are all the questions that are being spun up today. It's all, right now there's we have no idea where it's going to go, but these are just all the questions that we're hearing, and it does change how transactions happen and how the affiliated business model could be changed along the way too.
Well, and of course, as Mike said before, we're talking about a situation, a story that may take years to play out, even just in the courts. But so this is really a first look at what a topic we'll probably be coming back to again in the future as things develop. But let me go ahead and ask in this first look at kind of Burnett and Nar, what kind of, and I'll make this a toss up for either or both of you, what's the timeline on these potential changes coming, and what should realtors, real estate agents, brokers, title agents, what should people be doing, if anything, to prepare or even capitalize on these potential changes?
I think, Mike, you said it first. It's maybe years, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so when we're talking about the courts and appeals and decisions being state to state, it could be a long, long time. So, I mean, I think right now, NAR and most of the brokerages are putting out their own, their own analysis of it. And from what I have seen thus far, it's business as usual. There doesn't seem to be, it's play by the rules as they are today.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that, Brian. I think that what you've seen, the responses have been across the board. We've seen some brokerages come out and say, like Aaron said, business as usual. We've seen others that said, more to come. But in almost all cases, I have yet to see advice given to a buyer's agent saying, don't proceed as you would otherwise in the past. I believe it's just been a warning that there are road signs out there. Things may change, but for now we're fighting it. More to come. I think the important thing for Aaron and I is that, look, this has the potential to turn our client's industry on its head a bit. And the reality of the situation, especially in a soft market right now, is that this isn't great timing to hear that a commission structure is under attack. If anything, you need additional revenue right now where everyone is competitive trying to get these same closing transactions. I think that Aaron and I are looking at this as we've been talking to a lot of potential clients out there about the possibility of a joint venture title agency. And I wonder now, especially if teams are going to become more integral to the real estate transaction process than before, I wonder now if not only the additional revenue stream, but the control of the transaction pace, the ability to hold it kind of close to the vest and sort of know your provider and have that sort of ownership and control. I'm wondering if that's going to apply more now than it has in the past, or at least be more attractive. Yeah,
and that's just, that goes back to decades of the one-stop shop. The one-stop shop has existed forever, where it's, I'm using a realtor that has a lender affiliation, that has a title affiliation, that has a property and casualty insurance affiliation to control, that closed loop of closing and control all the parts of it to assure that, a deal gets properly closed and transacted. So this, again, this type of change just has the ability to disrupt that. And then if you have the foresight now to be thinking in terms of, well, what if this does change me from a seller versus buyer market, from an individual agent to a team, how can I be prepared? And I think that's what Mike was touching on is if we've seen the emergence of the large real estate teams for years now, and if this furthers that, then how can they potentially capitalize and better prepare themselves to be prepared for what's next.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot to cover here. I think there's going to be a lot of conversation in the coming weeks, months, and maybe years. We're just going to start on it today. We're going to come back to this again. And of course, I'd like to thank Aaron and Mike for being here today to share a little bit of their expertise. And of course, I encourage all of our listeners, if you want to continue this conversation or just chat about JVs in general, Mike and Aaron would love to hear from you. Their contact information will be here up on the site. Feel free to reach out, and they'd be happy to kind of discuss, what their thoughts are on various elements of AVAs. So, gentlemen, we appreciate you being here as always today. Hopefully, we'll see you all back again for our next episode. And with that, I'm Brian Rieger. Thanks for joining us.